Okay, another trick I want to show you. See over here on my left screen, I'm in a split screen, so you can only do a split screen, I think, with the iPad Pro. That's one of the reasons I got this iPad Pro for Christmas. It was for my birthday, actually. It was such a wonderful gift because I can do a split screen. But I have saved this picture of my fox. So if you look over here on the left, the two pictures of the fox on the left, the one on the top is my drawing and the one on the bottom is the actual photo. So one of the little tricks that I can do to help me see, what I need to do, what doesn't look right, is I can look right here and I can see the differences in the actual drawing and the photograph. So what I'm seeing right now is the background. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to my watercolor again. I do this once I get a little bit further along with my drawing. I'll do this so that I can look at my perspectives, look at my details, and see if they're all in the right place. But in the background on the actual fox, you'll see it's a little darker. So I'm coming in and I'm making the background on my picture a little darker. And there's actually some green, some mossy green, kind of right down in here. And a little darker up here. So I just kind of do that. Try to make it look as close to the photograph as I can. That's just my process. Everybody has a different process. That's what I've learned. Come down here and put in some darker greens. Just to kind of give it some depth. And then as far as those reeds, I'll go back to my browns. And then the reeds look like, basically on this one, these reeds in the front left actually come, well, they don't actually. I was thinking it comes in front of the tail, but they don't. So they go in back of the tail. Let's see. There's one that goes kind of like this. So I'm trying to get those right. There's that one that's kind of prominent. There's some on the left, kind of give it some texture and some depth. See these kind of dark brown spots. That one, there's a couple of really light ones that go like this. I'll do those. But then there's that dark one, and then there's another one that goes right by his ear. Kind of goes vertical and straight down next to this one at the bottom. So that sometimes when I can get some items in the picture set, and that helps me with the rest of my picture. There's also some reeds, I think, in the back, but those are a little more orangish up here, see? Okay, and see that there's like a bigger, anyway, right now I'm just kind of doing a little bit more in the background because I was able to see when I go like this, when I have my recents and my favorites, that there's definitely a lot more brown down here. There's some yellow right in here. get a little bit of yellow, bottom right. And like I said, this is all, it doesn't have to be perfect right now. Putting more yellow, I see some more yellow like right around his ears on the inside corner. So anyway, and there's some of this kind of yellow brownish color in the background. So if I get the background right, then when I start to do the edges, the actual edges of the fox, it looks more realistic. If that makes sense. Down here, there's a lot more brown than I had originally put in. Belle's over there, she's starting to snore, and it sounds like a moan, so if you hear that, that's what that is. It's really sweet. She's my 11-year-old pit bull, and she'll make some really cute noises. Going back to the orange, kind of the deep orange, and if you look around his eyes, you'll see that's that really pretty deep orange. It goes down the side of his nose. I'm looking at the bottom picture, and I'm looking at my picture on the right, and I'm just kind of going in and putting the correct color, little spaces of color around his eyes. Okay, I'm gonna go and just zoom in. I was working on his nose before, so I'm gonna continue working on his nose. I had some blue up. I was using the pencil. So it looks like I'm almost done with it. I needed to kind of work on the shape a little more, kind of bring the lower edges down to where that little part comes down. There's a name for that. I don't know what it is. The part in between your nostrils. All animals that, at least the ones that I've drawn, they have that. Whatever that thing is. Okay, and then this side comes up. Like I said, it kind of blends into the top of his nose right here. And then there's some lighter parts right in here. There's always, okay, so if I were to draw it all dark right here, go in and make it all black. Then this is what you can do to make your nose look, if you're doing an animal nose. Oops, sorry. Oop. Okay, so you can blow it up. I can blow it up and look at it like this. Alright. There's always going to be the shiny part on the top. Not always, but typically. And for this I'm using that kind of a grayish blue. And I can use a bigger pencil size, bigger brush size with a lower opacity. And just kind of go like this, and it gives it that texture. Okay, and then all you have to do is for the nostrils, you can't actually see the nostrils, but you can see the light hit the bottom edge of the nostrils. So For the light, I use just that light gray. And then if you can go in with a really dark blue. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing right here, but I'm going around the top part, and I am making the nostril, because the nostril is going to go, nostril, that's a funny word. Okay, so right now I'm just darkening in the spots above where the light hits the center lower part of his nostril. And then I'm darkening in the edges. So you can kind of see that there's like a lighter part right here, and I might exaggerate it more than is in the actual photograph. And then you can see, that looks pretty realistic. You can see the outer edge, this left outer edge is more of a straight down. And then I'm just defining that line of that outer edge, outer left edge of the nostril, of his nose. It comes down like that. And then this is not, it's really not, go back into the orange, but it's not really white as much as it's like that's the dirty part of his mouth. So it's kind of like a dirty white look color. And if you look, you can see, if you look right under, on the photograph to the left, right under his nose, I'm going back to my watercolor, and I'm going back to like a brownish color, because I'm still working on some background, constantly doing this. His tail, I don't know if this part right here is like reflection in the water or what, but there's still some orange. It goes around, okay, to his tail. Maybe it's a reflection, but there's some dark like this. And I'm just I don't know if you can hear the tap, 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 but it's the first time I've ever done audio with the screen recorder, so it's kind of new for me. Then I'll go to the white, go back to my pencil, and I'll go around the edge of his nose with the white. Oop, what did I just do? It's actually not, it's actually closer than that. And it goes like here, and then it goes around, and then his nose is kind of whiter right here. Whiter, not wider. Whiter. It kind of goes up like this. Goes straight down from his eye. There's like this yellowish orange part. That's the lighter part of the top of his nose. It's not that deep orange, it's more of that kind of a yellowish orange. That is right in here. And it kind of meets the white right down in here. You see? Then it kind of gets darker, so that's why I use this gray over here. It gets darker because this is shadow on the side, on this side of his nose, on the right side of his nose, and it goes down to a darker brown right here. And then I'll go up to his eye and kind of where that darker. I'd make it darker where that line meets his eye. It actually gets quite dark. And then you'll see on the left side, I'm going to draw a line just to show you where it is. That's his mouth. Can you see it? So that's his mouth, and then I'll go around the edges of it with white, dark, kind of that dirty white, and make the shape of his upper lip. And then it goes around, and then it meets that really white part right there. Okay, so that's still working on that top of his nose, trying to get that color right. It's like a orangish yellow, as is the top of his, above his eyes. See that orangish yellow above his eyes? I'm working on that. So his eyes in my picture, actually, a lot of times I'll do like this and I'll find a line, see the top line where these colors are, and I'll bring his eyes and I'll say, okay, well, are they level? Is it the right angle? Because in this picture, that right eye looks a little bit lower. I can't do it in the left picture, but that right eye looks a little bit lower than the left eye. But in my picture, it looks opposite. But you know what? I ain't even gonna worry about it right now, because all I have to do, I say I'm not gonna worry about it, but I'm gonna go ahead and fix it, is go to that lower lid of that left eye and go in and kind of shave in the size of that left eye. Right now I'm coming in, I'm going into the lower, inside lower lid, just getting the shape of it right. And see, the top lid is not black, it's like a brownish color, so I'm doing that right now, just to kind of get that right. Then below the dark part of his lower lid, there's like a lighter, almost looks like a white kind of color right there. So I'll put that in to just kind of shave it a little bit and make it look like the photograph. Then I can go back and do the lower lid a little dark. And do the inside corners of these eyes kind of dark and make it come in to meet the sides of the nose. And then I'm doing the line between the white and the orange on the left side of his face to kind of shape his face. Okay, and see where it meets the side of his nose, right about there, almost to his actual nose, but just the side of his nose kind of goes out the line. I'm doing like that outside line of his nose to try to make that look a little thicker. Because in my picture, his nose looks really thin and too thin. So right now I'm just shaping up his nose. Okay. I'm getting the dirty part of the lower part of his nose, where his mouth is. See his whiskers? I'm not gonna put those in yet. Those are like one of the last things I do. Let's see what he looks like right now. It's starting to look good. His head is bigger in my picture than it is in the photograph, which is fine. That happens all the time. And what I don't really worry about it, because if everything's in proportion, it's not that big a deal. It doesn't matter as long as everything's in proportion. Look at that right ear looks so good. I'm putting a little bit of the light parts in both of the ears. I'm using like a light orange, almost white color to do some of the inside of the ear. Okay, and then there's a little bit of that white fluff fur above his ear. All right, look at that deep color in between his face, in between his. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you what I do. Typically, when I get to this place and I can't really get the depth, the richness of the color with the pencil, I will go over here and I will change to oil, and I will get a bigger brush at a low opacity. I'll get an orange. So this orange right here, and a bigger brush, and I'll start going in and putting little places of really orange. Not everywhere. It's not going to be a real thick, solid line. It's going to be more of just sporadic pieces of paint laid down. I'll go and change. I change the depth of the color. Like this is a darker. If you look at this, okay, look at this right eye, or his left eye. Okay, I'm going to use oil. I'm going to go in and do a darker brown. Under his eye. Right now, I'm having like a hot flash, and it always happens at about this time of any picture that I'm drawing, when I start to doubt myself and I start to get like in my head that negative self-talk starts going, which it always does. I'm so used to it. It starts going, God, this is terrible, this doesn't look right, you're messing it up, what are you doing? And I start to have like a hot flash, break out in a sweat. But I'm pretty good at going, shut up, Cassie, just keep going, it'll look all right. And I just keep going. And, okay, so his eye, there's a line of brown that comes like this. That kind of makes it look, more defined. It's kind of like when we put makeup on our eyes. It makes them pop, and that's what I'm doing with his eye. I'm putting eye makeup on to make his eye pop. So this is just, I'm just really doing this right now to show you what I typically do. What stages, like when it gets to where it's almost, I'm not saying I'm almost finished with it, but I am at a place where I can just start having fun and getting the colors right. And I do switch over to oil. Okay, one thing I'll show you is, okay, where his whiskers are. See where his whiskers are? I talked before about going across your color wheel for shades and shadows. So I'm going across and I'm picking a blue, and there's white, but there's also like shades of gray under here, you see. So I'm doing that. There's his mouth, but then there's like a grayish underneath down here, and it kind of goes like around right here. So it shows the shape of his mouth. And then also, I'm going to use a bigger brush, low opacity, and I'm going to kind of bring this down like this. So it actually, I'm putting in that white fur that's underneath here. And I'm actually going that, my pencil is going in the same direction of his fur. So it kind of makes it look like actual fur. You can see. Okay. Then you can see his whiskers. I'm just going to go ahead and do this, so I'll show you what I do. I use oil. I use a very low size, small size brush, a very low opacity, the lowest, which is like 5%, maybe a 10 brush size. And I get a dark color that's in our color wheel, usually about right here somewhere. And I'll start putting in some of his whiskers. See this whiskers at the very bottom? Some of them are very bright, light, but then some of them are pretty intense. Like especially right here from this dark place, you know, they're coming out. There's some in the white part of it that are coming out. So that just really kind of gives it some depth. And then also, like from where we were before, I'll come in and put some bigger brush strokes of whiskers. And one thing that you can do that's a tool, a little trick I guess, is, okay, so if you have these brush strokes of the whiskers and it doesn't blend, you can go over here, you can go to your blender, go to your blender for your smoothie, and I'll get a low brush size, a pretty high opacity, and then I'll come and just kind of blend these little whiskers so that, and this little nose part that comes down, blend these little whiskers so it's not such a dramatic place where it starts. I don't use the blender that as much as I used to, but sometimes I will use it at that point in the picture. Okay, so look, that nose looks, that nose looks pretty right on. I'm gonna go in with the oil. I'm gonna go back to my orange color. I'm gonna get the whitest, and I'm gonna shave that little outside. Oop, that's too big. Get it smaller. Shave that outside part because to get the shape, and then the white. See how the white kind of shapes it up. And then also, you know, that white really only comes pretty close to his nose. It's not as big on the left side, so then I'll get the darker color, like a dark brown, and I'll go like this and I'll shave it off. So that dark color kind of goes around his nose and blends into the background. But the purpose is to shape his nose. And then there's like this color right here. I'm really doing the background right behind his face. Does that make sense? And then his whiskers on the left, you can't see as much as, you can't see them as well as the ones on the right. So what I'll do is go back but there are some that you can kind of see. So I'll kind of just do like a mid-range color right here and put some coming out. And then get some dark ones, kind of come out with some dark ones around his face, his nose. And maybe a couple right from here. Does he have some over here? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't like that one. But there definitely are some down in here. I'm doing his little eyebrows right there. You see his little eye. He's got like a little. The one on the right is more noticeable. I'm just going around putting down his colors of his fur. There's a lot of oranges, but there's also a little bit of yellow. There's a little bit of red. Trying to make the color of his face be as close as it is in the photograph, because I'll make it more realistic. And I'm a realistic artist, I guess. My style is realism or realistic art, which, 9 months ago I would not have known that that's what I am, because I don't know the terms or anything, but I've learned that much. Look how sly he looks, like how he's lying down in the whatever that is. He's lying down in the swamp, really, kind of looks like. Coming over here with some gray, putting in the gray below his chin. Down in the weeds. He looks like he's about to go after something, doesn't he? Doesn't he? Sometimes when I see myself or hear myself on camera or video, I'm like, good Lord, what has happened? I used to be smart. I used to be able to communicate effectively without sounding like a hillbilly. But I don't have to anymore, so I guess it doesn't matter. I used to have to give presentations on a regular basis and be all professional and wear professional clothes and, you know, be in that world, which was great. I enjoyed it while it lasted. But now that it's over, I'm glad it's over. I'm just going around with the dark right now and putting in the dark parts of this picture. Make it look more realistic. Going around his left eye. He's got some eyelashes on. Eyelashes. Like whiskers that I'm going to need to put in around his eyes in a second. And I will. And then his fur in the background. It's got all kinds of colors in it. That's the thing about realistic art is it's just, you just got to take the time to put in all of the different sizes and shapes and colors and various textures. And okay, I'm going to come around his face right here on the right side of the picture, and I'm going to just put in the grayish, the gray tones, because that will give it the appearance of depth. See the dark underneath his head on the right side. It gives it that shape of his head. So when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, his face looks a lot more slender than it should. So I'm gonna go in his nose, and I'm gonna make it look thicker with putting that yellow top tone that's between his eyes, and it goes down the sides of his nose. And I'm going to make his nose look fatter. I'm actually not even changing the size of his nose. I'm changing I am changing the size of his nose, but I don't know how to say this. Okay. Love you. So much. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm not actually widening his nose. I'm just changing the shades and how it comes down the sides of his nose, so it makes it look wider, if that makes any sense at all. Because okay, it's already looking better to me. Because his nose in my picture was just looking too thin and puny. And it's not. It's a lot thicker in the picture than it was in my picture. Alright, so now I'm going back in between his eyes and putting that bright orange color in. I'm still using an oil brush because I can get better colors. You know, it's funny when I talk on these videos, because they are however long, my throat actually starts to kind of get scratchy because I'm looking down and I'm talking more than I talk ever during the day anymore, because I hardly ever talk. You know, I'm by myself. I'm working on my art. When Mom was here, I would talk with her, but she was sleeping so much, and I was sleeping so much that it's not like I was talking to her a lot either. So I find myself talking a lot. It makes my voice scratchy. It's okay though. It's nice to feel like I have somebody that's listening to me, even though it's virtual. But everything's virtual now, so I feel like my world has not really changed very much because of the coronavirus, except the few things that I did go out of my house to do, I can no longer do, which has been pretty sad. The only physical activity thing that I have done since my accident has been Pilates, and my Pilates people they're my people. I have two really good friends, the woman that actually is the instructor, and then another friend of mine who got me involved in Pilates. And the three of us will meet. Well, we go and we do Pilates, and then we go afterwards to some place for lunch. This is normal days before COVID. We go and we sit and talk. My one friend and I, sometimes we would sit for hours, especially if we got into some really good conversation about whatever, God and, the meaning of life or whatever. We talk for hours at the pizza place or wherever we went to sit and talk. And not being able to do that has been I don't like that. I don't like leaving my house, but I don't like for somebody to tell me I can't leave my house. And I think that's the case with a lot of us. Okay, that ear I'm going to go in, and I'm going to do that top line. That's that colorful line. See that line right there? Right there. It's just kind of a yellowish line right there. It makes it look really cool. And it's got like little pieces that come up at the top, and then it's got pieces that go like this, make it look furry. Can you see? And then there's some pieces that kind of go from inside to the outside. See, and now that I've got my colors pretty good, I'm just kind of sticking in the same color wheel. And I'm going to go on the inside of this ear with that same color. And doing the fur. Right here. I'll finish the story about, not story, but I'm telling you about my art and my mom and stuff. I mean, it's not a long story, but I know I've started and stopped that story for a bit, but a few times. One thing I'm seeing is his eye right here, and it has like this shape on the top that I need to go back and work on this. This is his eye makeup, like I was talking about before. And he's got a little eyebrow. It looks, it's pretty deep colors right here. And then there's pretty deep deep colors right here at the bottom of this right ear that goes around. It's like a little line that goes around right here in his fur. Okay, so I'll talk about, okay, my mom's an artist and has, like, she's a real artist. And she's had a couple of exhibits. She sold some pieces. She's had some commission pieces. She never was really, she never really wanted to like promote her work or anything like that. So if somebody wanted to buy a piece of work, it was only because, you know, they had seen it. Maybe they were somebody that she worked with and knew that she was an artist. I mean, she wasn't somebody that was out promoting her art and trying to get exhibits on her own or anything like that, or had a whatever the name of that. I stumble with words a lot. I blame Lyrica. It's the medicine I'm on. Not a promoter, but what the crap is the name of the people that do that for you? Anyway, she didn't have one of those. She wasn't good at promoting her own work, so if she had, I'm sure she would have sold a lot of pieces because she's really good. So anyway, she's an artist, and she, you know, my sister and I have inherited, or whatever you want to call it. We both have artistic abilities of different sorts. My sister is a really good writer and orator, I guess would be the word. And then she's an architect. She has her architectural degree from Auburn University. And then I have more of the fine arts ability, but I've never really used it until I had my accident. So when I started with my art, of course, Pigment is a coloring app. That's how it's that's what it's called online, is a coloring app. So my mother thought that when I started doing my freehand pieces, she thought that I was still like importing photographs in black and white and just coloring them, which, I mean, that's still an art on its own. There are people that do that, and that's how I did start. I did start with Pigment. First, I just started coloring the pieces that Pigment already has. And then I got to where I was like, oh, I figured out how to upload a photograph in black and white, and I would make it very, very faded so I could only see the lines, the real faint lines, and I would color the pictures. And that's how I started. And then they have these galleries, and I would go and I would look at other people's artwork on these galleries, and I would see freehand art. And I would be like, how in the world are these people doing these freehand pieces? Right now I'm making his face a little fatter still because it's still too... You know, what it is his nose should not be as far over to the left as it is, but I am definitely not going to do his nose over. So what I do is I just try to come in and, as best I can, make the illusion of his nose being a little fatter. Anyway, okay, so I've tried to tell this story about 1,000,000 times. Okay, so I would start. Okay, so I was. I figured out how to import and color grayscale, and then I started seeing all these pictures in the galleries of people doing freehand work. I was like, how are they doing that? I want to see if I can do that. And so somebody on Pigment, because Pigment is a social media app too, so somebody on Pigment, because I had asked, like, how did you do this freehand? How did you get a blank canvas? And they told me how to do it, and it's super simple. You just go to the main, like My Works, and you click on that little icon of the paper. So once I figured that out, then I was off to the races, and I started doing freehand pieces of art. And at first I was really nervous because I haven't done any artwork in, I'm talking 30 years. And I certainly haven't used, I haven't used oil or pastel or, all the different mediums that are available on Pigment. Watercolor, I remember working on, trying to do some watercolor work about 20 years ago and just getting completely frustrated because it would just turn into this soggy mess. And I was like, screw this. So I've not done anything, and I was just like, well, let me try. And I think the very first picture that I did, freehand picture that I did, was the one of Leo Tolstoy. I have told this story before, but he's the writer of War and Peace and Anna Karenina, and I always thought he was a cool looking man, older man, just long beard, and he looked just mean and cranky kind of looking. Anyway, I wanted to do a picture of him, so I did, and that was the first time I was like, wow. And I got so much positive feedback and encouragement from the people on Pigment, and that was super cool. I guess I'm one of those people that, I thrive on positive affirmations from others. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's me. And so once that happened and people started giving me praise and saying, oh my gosh, that's so awesome, I was like, oh, I can do this. This is something I can do. Okay, so I started doing more and more pictures, freehand pictures, and now I just do exclusively freehand. For about 6 months now, I haven't done anything except freehand pieces. So I would send them to my mom, and I would expect her to be like, oh, that's wonderful, Cassie, great, this is great. And she was, a little bit. She was always just like, I'm so glad you found this outlet. And, because I was really I was just kind of in a funk. After my accident, I was like, what the crap am I supposed to be doing? I don't know what to do. But there was always something, like I could tell that either she really didn't appreciate my art because she didn't really think it was the same as real art, or there was some territorial thing, like I was I wasn't staying in my lane, kind of like I was kind of interfering in her world. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that there was something. And so after about, sending her about 3 different pieces and learning that she was just not going to be a supportive mom, and I had even mentioned to her one time, we had a conversation about it. And I was like, well, what is it? What didn't you like about this picture or whatever? And she was like, nothing. I just, she said, I don't know what you expect of me. Like, I can't be your art critic. And I was like, Mom, I don't want you to be my art critic. I want you to be my mom, And she was like, what do you want me to do? Just every piece that you do, go, oh, that's beautiful, and I like it, and, yay. And I was like, yeah. Because that's what moms do. That's what I want you to do. I want you to just, support me and like what I do. And so she still didn't start doing that. So I was just like, what the heck is going on? And I would talk to people about it. I'm like, I don't know what is going on with my mom and my artwork. I just don't know what it is. And we would try to process it and try to figure it out. And I stopped sending her pictures early. I was just like, I'd put them on Facebook, and I created my own folder of Cassie's freehand work and all that. And she saw it on Facebook and liked it, that's fine. But I wasn't sending her screenshots. I wasn't trying to get her approval. I just stopped doing all that because I was like, screw that. I don't know what it is, but there's something. Okay, so life goes on. She gets diagnosed. She comes to live with me. And for the first month and a half that she was here, she didn't seem sick at all. I mean, literally, if you had lunch with her or come over for lunch or whatever, I mean, you wouldn't, unless somebody told you that she had stage 4 cancer, you wouldn't have known, because she did not seem sick. She wasn't in any pain. I mean, she was a little unstable on her feet, but she's been unstable on her feet for years, so that wasn't anything new. Anyway, so we would start to have these pretty deep, intense conversations, and about all different things, about life, death. My mom can't have a surface conversation, so they were all deep. And she would have intense emotions, and I would be like, in my head, just kind of, get it together, Mom, come on. Anyway, so finally, a lot of the time, she would come in here and she would have coffee with me, and she even made a comment early on that the only reason that she was diagnosed with cancer was so that she could come and have coffee with me in the mornings, which was cool. But so she would come in here and she would have coffee with me, and we would chat, and a lot of times I'd be working on a picture. And so she made the comment one time. She made the comment about how it wasn't until she was here and she actually saw me working on the pictures that, the paintings that I was working on. It wasn't until then that she realized that I was drawing these pictures freehand. She said, I just, I always thought that you were importing them or doing something, and you were just coloring them. You were coloring, black and white grayscales, basically. And I was like, what? I said, Mom, I knew that there was something. I knew there was something that was going on. I just, I just didn't know what it was. And that was what it was. She did not think that I was, that she did not think that my pictures were true freehand pictures. And, that I was saying that they were freehand, but they really weren't. I'm working on his tail right now, just so you know. I've just been talking and kind of working on him. But she did not truly think, or she did not think that my pictures were true freehand pictures. And so that was kind of like an aha thing for both of us. Like, I was like, I knew the whole time that there was something that you didn't approve of, either didn't approve or just, you just didn't value it as much as old school art. And I was like, I didn't know if it was because it was, digital and I wasn't using actual paints, or if I just didn't know what it was. I said, but I knew that there was something, and that makes sense. So that was a moment of clarity for me and for her to learn that that I was actually doing these pictures in freehand, which means from a blank canvas. And like I said, that is not to take away, I don't mean that to take away from people who color, because it takes a certain specific talent to figure out colors and to be a colorist, and that's an art all on its own. I'm doing the outside corner of this ear again because I kind of messed it up with the colors, but that's just not what I've been doing. I've been doing freehand work, and Mom did not realize that I really was. She thought that I was just saying I was, and it was just funny. I'm like, damn, Mom, why didn't you say anything? My mother is very passive, and sometimes very passive-aggressive. And so that was one of the things that was really hard. I wasn't prepared for it to be as hard emotionally for her to live here in her final, time of life. She's not dead. She's just in a nursing home, but I just wasn't prepared for that. I was prepared for pain. I thought I was. I was more prepared for pain and sickness than I was for the emotional stuff, because Mom and I have always been very compatible, easy, as far as living in the same, or just being in the same space. I did not think that it would be hard for her to cohabitate with us as much as it was. And she has not lived with anybody for 50 years, and it got to a point where I was like, there's a reason for that. There's a reason, and I didn't realize that she is as hard to live with as she was. And a lot of it has to do with just miscommunication between the two of us, or misunderstanding. Like, she would think that I would expect her to be a certain way, and that wasn't the case at all. Like, she thought that I expected her to come out here and watch TV with Jeff and me every night. Or she thought that if she didn't do that, then we would think, or I would think, that she was being rude or inhospitable or whatever. And I was like, no. Like, no. You know, that's Jeff's time with me, and it had gotten to a point of where, you know, every night she would come out here and sit with us, and Jeff would kind of get ticked off because he'd be like, you know, that's his quiet, not necessarily quiet time, but his me time. And so finally I told her that finally came out. That was hard. You know, we just had times like that where it was just hard conversations. And then when she really got sick, that's when I started doubting our decision for her to go elsewhere from here, because then I was like, I don't know, I don't know. Even though it was hard when she was really sick here that last week, it was easier to me than the emotional intensity of her before she actually got sick. Not that she wasn't sick the whole time. It's just different. Anyway, the whole point I was making was that I really wanted to say was that she didn't value my work as freehand because she thought I was basically not tracing, but virtually tracing. That I was just coloring. And I wasn't. And I was trying to make people think that I was really drawing when I wasn't. It's just funny. It's like, well, that all makes sense now, because I knew there was something. Just didn't know what it was. All right. I am going to do a couple of little, like, weeds. The foreground. Grass and weeds. There's some green. You see these green blades of grass. You know, all I got to do is just take this color wheel and just start moving it around and putting just a whole bunch of different shades and different colors of grass, browns, and greens. And what I will do, I'll show you in a minute, is what you can do with your background and your foreground to make it look more realistic. It's really cool. I'll show you. Hang on one second, I'm doing these reeds in the back again. Alright, and then see this green and yellow part over here in the foreground. Just kind of do some crisscross things in here. And you're going to get yellow. Do like a couple of little squiggly lines of yellow and some orange and some brown right in here. Greens. Go back to yellow. Get a couple of pieces of the yellow right here. Okay, that's kind of the foreground. And we've got some pieces that are the background. You got some yellow in here. Weeds. Just putting in some of this foreground. Yellow, it's going to be mostly green. There's something about the daggum fox's eyes that I'm not liking. His nose is too long. Yep. His ears are good. His eyes are okay. His nose is too long. I try to make it fatter to make up for it being too long. But this is when you've got to, or I have to just say, screw it. I'm not going to go back. I'm certainly not going to go back and mess with the daggum nose, because the nose itself is perfect. That's what, when I think about what I did, as far as when I go back and I'm thinking about, when I was putting down his features and getting his features put down correctly, I was doing it really fast because, I'm doing it on video and audio, so I was kind of rushing a little bit, and so I didn't get all of the features down, the perspectives correctly, and I messed up where the nose is a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it though, because he still looks good. He still looks like a daggum fox, so I'm not worried about it. And this is really just to kind of show y'all, whoever chooses to look at this, to show y'all some tips and tricks and kind of things that I do. All right, this is when I show you that is cool. All right, once I've got like some weeds down in the front, I'm just doing different colors. Dark, light, dark, light, little, big, just all these various colors in the front. Okay, I'm about to call this quits. Okay, so I've got my foreground, I've got my background pretty set. So now what I do that Pigment allows me to do is super cool, is go to this blur brush, and I'll do about 75% blur, and I'll get about a 50% brush size, and I'll go in. Look at this, I'm doing the flowers. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna leave that in focus. Some of the reeds. Okay, so you're looking at the bottom. Some of this stuff is gonna be in focus, and some of it's gonna be blurred. Because like this, it just makes it look more realistic, because some of the green, pieces of grass are in the real foreground, and some of them are in the background. So I'm just blurring some of it, keeping some of it sharp. One of the things I wanted to do is go in here and blend in some of these pieces. So, and I have these weird little, okay, so I'm going to go back to the blur. Blurring some of it. And then the background pieces, like these reeds that I first put down, the water underneath his tail, I'm blurring. These long reeds up here, I'm blurring. And one of the things that you'll notice if you use the blur brush on a freehand piece of work, this is another tip or trick. Okay, but if you're using the blur brush, then when you click this check mark to save it, you will see all around the top edge of your picture, do you see that, is white. So what you have to do, one of the very last things I do is I go over here to my blender brush, and I get a kind of a big brush size, and I'm going around the bottom, and I'm dragging the pieces down. I'm going around the top. You see here, right? I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, because I'm just bringing the brush and I'm dragging the top edges out. And it's important to kind of make it look, like it blends with the rest of the picture. I'm bringing the edges out, so it's not that white edge. And then the bottom right. click the check again to see. My edges look pretty good. And then what I usually do is I try to pick a color that I'm going to do my signature. Try to pick a color that kind of blends. It doesn't really stick out. So I'm probably going to use the same green color that's on my color wheel right now. And I'm going to use oil. And I'm going to get a small brush, about a 10 opacity-ish. And I'm going to go to this bottom right corner and I'm going to sign it. See if that looks okay. It looks good. One thing I'm not really happy about are these reeds. So what I'm going to do to make them look better and more like background is I'm going to go back to my watercolor brush. And I'm going to go over the reeds and make them just blur more, kind of, I don't know, blend more. They don't stand out as much, if that makes sense. Because I don't want them to look real defined. And then with this tail, the same. I'm gonna get my watercolor brush and I'm going in with the white at the end of his tail to make it look more more fuzzy, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I'm gonna go into his fur now that I've got this whiter color, or it's like a light yellow color. I'm gonna go into his fur a little bit and put this in some. It just kind of makes it look like it's got more fur. So underneath his chin on the right side of the picture. See what I'm doing? It's kind of making it look like he's got more fur around his face. And around his nose. Around his mouth. That kind of defines the outer edge of his mouth. And that will about do it. I say that'll about do it, and I keep going. I just It's just the way it is. Just finishing touches. And then I'll click this. I'll hit save. I'll hit publish to gallery. And this little, I'll put Sly Fox. Watch my video on YouTube. Cassie Fairly Freehand Portraits. I think that's what they're under. Freehand. So I will put watercolor. I always put what I use. I don't know why. I mean, I just do that for people if they're interested. Watercolor, pencil, and oil. Video on YouTube. Cassie Fairly Freehand Portraits. Post. Done. Out. That's it. Thank you.